On today's show, the Ottawa Senators have signed Lars Eller to be their fourth-line center.
And they continue to round out the roster in Belleville. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, Dev Camp has started.
This is Brady Kachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd, and Pilsy, it was more of a Belleville makeover start to free agency with a couple of signings still yet to be announced, but the big news is that Lars Eller will be filling in that fourth-line center position. The 36-year-old veteran signing a one-year contract with a base salary of $1.25 with performance bonuses that can bring that over $2 million. What were your thoughts when you saw that come across?
Well, it fills the need of a fourth-line center, Ross. Lars Eller, a veteran guy with a Stanley Cup championship. He's 36 years old, 6'1", 207 pounds, left shot. That's nice. Pretty decent in the faceoff dot as well. So maybe not the biggest splash, maybe just a drip or a drop, but that's a need they had to find a way to fill, and they get it done here. Were there other names that signed deals that I would have preferred over Lars Eller? Yeah, probably, especially when you look at the performance bonuses that are attached to his deal. But I do think this is a nice signing, and we talk about it all the time, Ross, and I think it's becoming Steve Staios' mantra. Sometimes on July 1st, the best moves are the ones you don't make. We saw it's an annual tradition, Ross, a handful of bad deals, too much money, too much term. The Ottawa Senators don't do that here, a one-year deal.
We've got a list of the guys who we were interested in the Senators signing, where they end up, how much money, and we'll look later on at all the deals that former Ottawa Senators signed elsewhere, including a pair of players that were on the Sens NHL roster last season and a few moves in Belleville, both out and in, losing all-time LOSB favorite, but he got a great opportunity. We'll tell you all about that later on. But let's stick with Lars Eller, who immediately becomes the third most veteran forward on the Ottawa Senators in terms of games played. Claude Giroux, who spoke to the media, by the way, this morning, is at 1,263 NHL games. David Perron at 1,174. Meanwhile, Lars Eller is at 1,116 games. Now, just imagine telling a Sens fan 12 years ago during that playoff series between Montreal and Ottawa that one day Lars Eller would be an Ottawa Senator. Of course, game one of that 2013 series, Eric Gryba put him into next week, one of the biggest hits of all time in Sens history, and it started a war of words between Paul McLean and then Habs head coach Michel Therrien. But I mean, Lars Eller since then has really kind of evolved his game. He was always kind of seen as maybe having another step to give offensively. It never really materialized in his career. He's often been between a 25 and 40 point player. It culminated in the season you brought up with the Washington Capitals, where he was great in the playoffs at 18 points in 24 games and scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal. It was one of 3 game-winning goals during that playoff run for the Capitals. So he's been there and he's won that. But at this stage in his career, it really feels like fourth line is probably the height. He's not a guy who's going to play on that third line. Like we heard from Locked On Washington Capitals host that it was a third line position that the Caps hoped that Lars Eller would fill when he was acquired early on last season from the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it never really materialized. Sometimes, Pilsy, I go over to the replies of the team that lost the player to see what the sense is. And I mean, with Jordan Spence, it was, oh my goodness, how could they trade him? What a steal for Ottawa. For this one, it was like, yeah, time to move on. Let's move on from Lars Eller. All good. No worse for wear there. But one of the reasons why, and I want your take on this, that I think that Lars Eller ends up being the guy is that in Ottawa, if a player is looking where the opportunity could lie, there's no third line option in Ottawa. With Stützle, Cousins, and Pinto locked in, and then even if one of them goes down, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, you're likely sliding Ridley Gregg over to the center ice position before you're looking at elevating a fourth line center. So you're already kind of shrinking your own market just based on guys who want to be a third line center. So to me, that's why this makes sense. Again, it's not a shake your pom-poms type move. It's not maybe the most exciting or dynamic, but if you look at the overall analytics, he's going to help defensively. And at this point, that's kind of what you're looking for in a fourth line center.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to bring much speed to the lineup at 36 years old. But last year, he continues his success in the dot, Ross, with the Pittsburgh Penguins. In the 17 games he played, he was a 56% in the dot. And then in 63 games with the Washington Capitals, he was a 51%. And as a career, in his 1,116 games, he's a 50.3% guy. So over 50%, you'll love to see that. And you talk about the one playoff game up against the Sens years ago where he took a massive hit from Greiba. Well, that was just one of his 112 career playoff games. So you get a guy that's a champion. You get a guy with a lot of experience. You get a left shot guy with size, veteran. So this is the type of player they were looking for, and I think it makes sense. So I like the deal.
And Ottawa all of a sudden had so many right shot forwards, including the swap where you get rid of left shot Josh Norris down the middle. You bring in a righty in Dylan Cousins. So Tim Stützle was the lone left shot centerman. So kind of makes sense. You want to have two righties, two lefties, and the experience is really what the Sens are going to hang their hat on in this deal. The performance bonuses. You may be wondering, what are they? How can he reach them? Well, if Lars Eller plays 40 games this season, he'll get $250,000. If he plays 60 games, he'll get another $250,000. If the Senators make the playoffs, he'll add another $250,000 to his bank account. And if the Senators win the second round of the playoffs, if the Senators are in the conference final, he'll get another $250,000. So there's $1 million in signing bonus money available for Lars Eller. And you got to think 3 of them are attainable pretty, I don't want to say easily. 2 of them are easy if he plays 60 games. You got to make the playoffs. Never easy. That's another $250,000. So, and we do have to but when it came to Claude Giroux, we basically said the $2 million is what it is. The rest will be applied to next year's cap. The truth of the matter is, if there is cap space left at the end of the year, it goes on to this year's cap, and then the rest carries over. But we're kind of under the assumption that whether it's now or at the trade deadline, that the Senators will finish the year very close to the cap. That's at least our hope, as the team's going to try to get better. But right now, there's opportunity around the league with the spending spree that we saw all over the place, that now teams are going to be in a bit of a crunch, and maybe the value becomes more clear for the Ottawa Senators. But don't expect any more real NHL moves. I think the rest of the moves we're going to see are going to help Belleville.
Yeah, I don't want the Sens to get too close to the cap, Ross. I think you probably want maybe a $1.52 million cushion. And then that's going to be interesting to see what happens with the bonuses that way, because Lars Eller, like you mentioned, has about $1 million worth of bonuses. I think I'd like the Sens to kind of chill out for a little bit, wait, buy some time, try to see what the rest of the roster is going to look like, whether it's in Belleville, whether you get some fringe NHLers, and then maybe dip your toe into the bargain bin a little bit like what they did with Nick Cousins last year. I think that makes a lot of sense for the approach for the Ottawa Senators, because I'd realistically say they have about $3 million where they're willing to play with to add some more players here. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. A couple of the guys you put on your draft for targets, Ross, Victor Olofsson, Anthony Beauvillier, still available. So maybe those would be guys they look at, but I feel like teams that missed out or are trying to add more will be looking to add those guys today, or if not by the end of this week. So I don't know if those 2 guys will be around much longer.
there's only one crown jewel left in this free agent class, and that's Nikolai Ehlers. TSN's Chris Johnston reporting that he is likely to make a decision later on today. Sens fans, don't hold your breath that he's coming to Ottawa. But there were a number of signings of players that we thought were of interest to Ottawa and players that used to play for the Sens making some big time cash. We'll discuss that. Plus the rumored signings that have yet to be announced. I mean, Elliot Friedman did put out one of them, so that's as good as a check mark. And the other one, when you click on this player's Google NHL bio, it brings you to the Ottawa Senators page. So I'm going to go ahead and say that our Lalims Martian was first on this.
I was going to say, Ross, more credibly notable is Lalims Martian has reported that these players have signed. So you could pretty much take that to the bank.
And that is on his birthday. Happy birthday to our buddy Martian, who will join us for some Ring of Honors later this summer. We've got another full week ahead here on Locked On Senators, and then we will turn over to 3 shows per week, Monday, Friday, and Wednesday. And we'll get our Sens Central citizens back on the show. We'll have an interview every week, and we will get a Ring of Honor that will be promised to be contentious. But on the other side, the Belleville Sens makeover and Sens Development Camp. You must be this tall to ride. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, but that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. The Sens could use Monarch Money for their budgeting needs, but you can too. It's not just a budgeting app, though. There's so much more. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, just use Monarch Money to check your finances, track your spending, and plan your long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever now. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals together, and stay on the same page without all that stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
All right, Pillsy, let's choose your own adventure. Do you want to get to the signings that the Senators made for their AHL team, or should we wrap up with the NHL players who we were interested that signed elsewhere and then move on to the AHL portion of the show?
Let's stall on the signings that were made. Maybe we'll get more details as they come. So let's go to Sens Abroad for now.
Okay. The crown jewel that Senators fans were a little bit excited about, because Bruce Garriock said that the Senators were planning on kicking tires on Brock Besser. That was one of the most reasonable deals of the day, and it ends up being a re-signing as Brock Besser goes back to the Vancouver Canucks on a 7-year contract that was worth $7.25 million per season. And hey, good for Canucks fans. I mean, they've been through some things the last year. I think it's very nice to see him stay there. If he wasn't going to come to Ottawa, I'm happy that he stayed in Van.
Yeah, agreed. I had my percentage likelihood of him coming to Ottawa maybe at around 2 or 3%, Ross. I did not have my hopes up for Brock Besser coming here, but yeah, too bad that it wasn't something more exciting just for a newsy day, as he was kind of the top free agent other than Ehlers, but good for the Canucks to get him back. We're happy for that.
Anthony Mantha, who I drafted in mine, he just signed this morning, $2.5 million base salary, and he can earn as much as $2 million in bonuses as well, as he was coming off a significant injury. Too much. Okay, let's run through it like this. Too much, or I would have been interested in that. Radek Fax, after signing with St. Louis before, I don't know how he got to St. Louis, but he's played pretty much his whole career with Dallas. He goes back to the Stars on a 3-year contract worth a total of $6 million, $2 million per season.
I would have been interested in signing that, Ross, but I think you made a good point. The Ottawa Senators really kind of pigeonholed themselves trying to find a centerman because they had to be clear. The best you're going to do is a fourth line center. And even if there's an injury, you're still probably not going to be a third line center. So maybe that would have deterred anyone from coming here, but that's a good deal.
Similar situation with Nico Sturm. He goes to Minnesota, and he was a player that won the Stanley Cup this past season with the Florida Panthers, but he goes back to where he started his career with the Minnesota Wild.
And it was a 2x2?
2 years at $2 million per season.
Yeah, I would have done that. Would have liked that to get Timmy, a fellow German Stanley Cup winner, and I thought he would have been a nice fit. And he's someone, Ross, that I think maybe wouldn't have been deterred too much by not being able to be elevated into the lineup, as he kind of was a spot starter in Florida anyways.
Corey Perry, 1 year, $2 million base salary plus bonuses with the LA Kings.
Weren't the bonuses, wasn't it like $3 million worth of bonuses or something? The bonuses were outrageous.
Oh, were they? I mean, for him, it's probably make the Stanley Cup final. It is $500K at 10 games played. And then $250,000 at 20, 30, 40, and 50 games played. $125K for a round 1 win, $250,000 for a round 2 win, $125 for a round 3 win. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I would not have done that.
The deal that a lot of people on social media really liked was Nick Bjugstad with the St. Louis Blues, 2 years at $1.75 million per season.
No bonuses?
No bonuses.
Yeah, I think I would have done that, but I think he would have been a player that would not have been comfortable being put in pen on the fourth line.
And Justin Brazeau with the Pittsburgh Penguins, rugged winger, 2 years at 1.5.
I would have loved to do that, Ross. He's a player that had 11 goals last year as a bottom six guy, 6'5", 220 pounds, a heavy, hard hitter. That's one I would have liked to have been a part of.
Let us know in the comments which one of those players, if any, that you're most frustrated the Ottawa Senators missed out on. And now let's go to our Sens abroad signings. We'll start with the players that just left. You made a video available on all social media, including YouTube, about Anton Forsberg leaving to the LA Kings. 5th all-time in games played for Ottawa Senators goalie, 6th all-time in wins, 32 years old, and he signs a 2-year contract with the Los Angeles Kings at $2.25 million per season. So it is a $500,000 pay cut per year, but still, I wouldn't have been comfortable with the Senators going even as much as the 2-year term based on Maryline being close, we think, to being an NHLer.
Yeah, for me, Ross, the 2-year term isn't that big of a deal, but the money was a little bit too much. We budgeted, shout out Monarch Money, we budgeted $1.5 million max for a veteran backup, and obviously, math guy, that's much more than that. So I think it's a good move for Anton Forsberg, and happy to see him land in a decent spot and get a decent payday, but I don't think that was the right move for the Ottawa Senators.
Well, I guess LA didn't put too much stock into the time they played in Ottawa this year on Thanksgiving when I was at that game. And Anton Forsberg, I believe, let in 3 goals on 5 shots and was pulled. And Eddie Garcia, who obviously joined us to discuss the Jordan Spence news last week, he DM'd me and said, how can you describe Anton Forsberg? And I said, he's either the best goalie in the world or the worst goalie in the world. There's not much different. He was very consistent, though, before the double MCL tears. And any Sens fan that's like wanting to kick him on the way out, I saw 2 comments in the replies being like, see ya, like, don't let the door hit you. And I'm like, come on. Brutal. This guy was through. I would love, can someone please find me the decor that Anton Forsberg played in front of when he got to Ottawa?
Oh, man. Yeah, would have been terrible.
Because he stuck it out through the rebuild and still put up some decent numbers. He's going to get a nice ovation. I also saw some comments saying, I'm going to buy tickets to the game that LA comes to Ottawa next year just to give him some love. I mean, 5th all time in games played. Little trivia, Pillsy. Can you name the Senators goalies with more games played than Anton Forsberg? There's a few easy ones. I don't think I'm putting you on the spot too much, and everyone can play along at home too.
Craig Anderson.
Number 1.
Patrick Louim.
Number 2.
Brian Elliott.
No, he's number 7.
Close.
I don't know if you're going to get the others. You should, though. You honestly should.
Ray Emery?
Number 6, Anton Forsberg has played in 8 more games with the Sens than Ray Emery. Rest in peace.
Not Robin Leonard.
No, Robin Leonard is number 9 at 86 games played. You get one more guess, Pillsy.
Damian Rhodes?
Number 3. So now you add the guess because you got it right. Number 3, 181 games played. Who was the goalie? Do you want a hint?
Yes.
Who was the goalie in net when Ottawa clinched their first ever playoff series?
Ron Tugnut?
Ron Tugnut, number 4. Thank you very
Bang!
much. We got there. 166
Woo!
games played. Anton Forsberg finishes his Senators career with 142 games played, a .905 save percentage, and a 2.98 goals against average. Okay, Pilsy. The other news, and this was inevitable with the Ottawa Senators signing Lars Eller, and that is Adam Gaudette signing with the San Jose Sharks. Maybe they saw the game that he played against them last year. Remember where Ottawa got outshot? Was it 36-10 midway through the third period? And he puts one hand on his stick and deflects the puck into the net. And oh my goodness, he was an offensive catalyst at times this season. He also had some dry spells, but what more could you have asked for on a 1-year, 2-way contract for Adam Gaudette? Good for him. 2 years, $2 million per season. I wouldn't have done it for Ottawa personally, but I really like that he got paid.
And it's not that crazy of an overpayment loss. Like, I actually think based on the season he just had, can he reproduce that? Remains to be seen. But I think it's a decent deal for him and San Jose. And San Jose is trying to get to the floor, so they would have had no issue overpaying or paying Adam Gaudette what he wanted. And he could have some good opportunities there, and he's going to go to a young team, and he can provide a lot of insight as a guy that was a Hobey Baker winner, scored a lot of goals, didn't have his NHL career probably go the way he thought it would or hoped it would to start, had to battle back, dominate in the AHL, has a good year in Ottawa and signs a new deal. Like there's a lot of good lessons to be learned through Adam Gaudette's story that I think could be helpful on a young Sharks team.
131 games played for the Ottawa Senators in 2 stints, and last year had 19 goals and 26 points and was a plus 12 in 81 games played all but 1 game for the Senators, was just over 50% in the dot. Now, do I think he's going to shoot 21% next season? No. But heck, what a catching, what do you call it? Catching
lightning in a bottle?
Thanks. I was going to say genie in a bottle. I was like, that doesn't work there.
Well, maybe he got two years worth of 2 wishes, Ross.
I will miss saying God is good every time he scores. I will miss that. But good luck to you, Adam Gaudette in San Jose. So both Ottawa Senators, NHL players that left, go to California, Forsberg to LA, and Gaudette to San Jose. There was some sad news if you're a fan of Locked On Senators and a fan of veteran, I would say, leadership in Belleville. We'll tell you who else left the organization and who's replacing them. Plus, our dev camp roster announcements. A short dev camp this year, just 3 days long. But the players are on the ice tonight and tomorrow. So we will discuss who's there as Senators prospect camp is underway. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Bill, the Sens Dev Camp is underway. Some content already coming out from the arena. The players will skate today at 2 o'clock. And then tomorrow, the Ottawa Senators prospects will also be on the ice at 9:30 a.m. Those are both at the Bell Sensplex. Later on in the show, we'll tell you what the rosters look like. But let's get to the last 2 departures, and then we'll have tap danced enough that if the details aren't out of the players that have been signed for the Ottawa Senators, then we'll just tell you what we know. The players that are leaving: Cole Reinhardt signed a 2-year, 1-way contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, Kelly McCrimmon is trying to be like Thanos and collect every former Brandon Wheat King. You can't have Ridley Gregg, but he certainly finds his way to get Cole Reiner. I was shocked that it's a one-way deal, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, great job for Cole Reinhardt. That guy battles. He put a lot of work in with the Belleville Senators organization. Did he take over most games played or not quite?
You're so funny. I was literally looking that up as we speak right now. Most games played by the Belleville Senators. It is Cole Reinhardt, and it ain't even close.
Yeah.
270 AHL games. Sokolov at 240 and Gaudette at 236.
Yep. Happy trails to Sokolov going to the KHL. That'll be interesting. I'm sure
CSKA. That's the big dog organization overseas. He's gonna be teammates with the Vitaly Abramov there as well. So Sens abroad. He signed for rubles, we'll say. I'll pull up the list on YouTube as well later on of all the Senators former players that signed, because we won't have time to go through them all. But one we do have to discuss is Angus Crookshank moving on to the New Jersey Devils. Now, Angus will join us on the podcast in the next few weeks to discuss his time with the Senators organization. And good for him too, man. Gets a 2-year contract with the New Jersey Devils. The second year is a one-way NHL deal. So we love to see that. In the first year, he's getting at least $475K minimum in the AHL. So a huge pay raise. You got to love the grind and determination from the Senators 2018 5th-round pick. Same draft as Brady Tkachuk. He's been in the organization forever, man.
Yeah, really sad to see Crooker go. Obviously, if you guys are fans of the show, you know he's one of our top recurring guests, just an all-around good guy. We love his style of game, too. I was hoping he would get a little bit more opportunity in Ottawa and maybe re-sign here, but you cannot blame him for taking that deal. That's an awesome deal, and he's going to have good opportunities in the New Jersey Devils organization. But we've been doing this show for a while, Ross, and you get to meet some really good people, and Angus Crookshank is one of those guys. So we're wishing all the best for Crooker. Great guy.
We're wishing all the best for him, man. And when you look like comparable, last year in the AHL, he was at $120K. So he just got a 3 times pay increase. So shout out to Crooker, man.
Boost.
We love that for him. The other player that's left is Matthew Highmore. Has signed with the New York Islanders, and I think it was time to move on there. So I have no qualms with that.
Yeah, I mean, if he would have been a guy that played more in Belleville, Ross, I think it would have been fine to have him come back. But it's just, he spent too much time in the NHL for my liking. And Ross, that might be one of those things where it's good to take away one of the, I hate saying it in this context, but one of the coach's toys. We dealt with that with Guy Boucher and even DJ Smith a little bit. And too much utilization of Matthew Highmore. So I think that is good for him to move on.
Sens abroad got paid yesterday. I'll just run through the list quickly, but they're all up. All the details are on our YouTube right now. Cody Ceci gets 4 more years at $4.5 million with the LA Kings. Connor Brown gets 4 years at $3 million with the New Jersey Devils. Good for Parker Kelly, man. 4-year contract at 1.7 per season with the Colorado Avalanche. Mike Riley signs 1 year, 1.1 with the Carolina Hurricanes. Matt Murray is going to be teammates with Joey Daccord again. 1 year, $1 million deal there. Evgeny Dadonov, 1 year, $1 million. The bonuses on that deal are outrageous as well. And then Dennis Gilbert and Jacob Bernard-Docker traded for one another in the Dylan Cousins and Josh Norris trade. Both signed identical 1 year, $875K deals. Gilbert with Philadelphia, and JBD with the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings love former Senators. 3 minor league deals. Colin White back with the San Jose Sharks farm team, making $425K in the AHL. He's making $875 from the Ottawa Senators for the next 3 years on that buyout. Boris Kachuk with Tampa, where he's been before. And Christian Jaros. I wasn't expecting to see his name after 2 years in the KHL. Christian Jaros is back in the NHL world, signing a 2-way deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Of course, you mentioned as well, Igor Sokolov signing in Russia on a 1-year contract. Pilsy, those players have all been to Sens Dev Camp, at least a lot of them that we read there. Parker Kelly, the prestigious Jonathan Petra Award winner, 2-time, if I'm not mistaken, from undrafted player to a full-time NHLer. And we see that every year. And the roster has been announced for the Ottawa Senators Dev Camp, and it's going to be exciting to see the first glimpse of first-round pick Logan Hensler. If you're going down to the Bell Sensplex to watch it, he'll be wearing number 67 to start his NHL Dev Camp, and we know these numbers are all subject to change. Just look at Brady Tkachuk rocking number 27 at the same event. But we're going to get to see a few, not all, but a few of the 2025 picks. The 2 Russians will not be there, which just adds more intrigue to them and more anonymous mystique, if I dare say. But the one thing you can tell from this roster right away, and we'll get to the goalies afterwards, but I'm pulling up on Twitter or on YouTube right now, the roster, we got a lot of enormous human beings, especially on the D-core.
Yeah, and Ross, I love if you look at the heights, you see a trio of guys at 5'10". Yeah, those guys were not drafted, and they were invites of the Ottawa Senators. They were not drafted and brought here by the Senators through the draft. So that's just classic Sens.
Give me 3 players that you're curious the most about seeing how they stack up against their peers in the Senators prospect pool.
Okay, I mean, easy, Logan Hensler. Let's hope the positivity for him keeps going here. Carter Yakimchuk, I want to see him dominate. I want to see it be like he's on another tier, another level from all these guys. And then
so you've taken the only 2 first-round picks that will be at this camp.
Correct. Yep. And let's get a little different here. I'm really interested in Bruno Egeton. He's a fun player. I think I said he was my favorite drafted player of this year. I'm so interested to see what he can bring. He was an absolute stud in the USHL with the Lincoln Stars, so I'll go with him as my third one.
Okay, I'm going to go with players because I always find it intriguing what their second dev camp looks like. Obviously, you're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed at your first one. So I'm going to go with Blake Montgomery, of course, off of an unreal season. He's got to be just booming with confidence going into this camp. I'm going to go with Javon Moore because I'm really interested. He looks like a beast of a man in the photos that were posted this morning. 6'3", 195. He's still just 19 years old. He's heading to college hockey next year. So those 2 in particular stand out to me. And I'll give you a tie for third. Gabriel Eliasson, obviously one of the youngest players from last year's draft. How's he going to look in his second draft? He's listed at 6'7", 212, coming off a year with the Barrie Colts. And then finally, I'll say Oscar Pettersson because he's one of the oldest players at camp, and I want to see him take on a leadership role. He's already gotten a full season now of AHL under his belt, so he should be head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of the refinement of his game compared to the others at Dev Camp.
All right, so you said 3 players, and you got to pick 4. Got it.
Yes.
The host makes the rules.
Yes. Well, if you'd like to mention Eric Wallenius, I got a little stat for you here that we can wrap up the show with.
Nope. I'll let you have him as your 5th pick.
Okay. Well, just say that you're excited to see what he looks like. Because that photo with Nordberg, Jabril Toure, Gabe Eliasson, and Eric Wallenius is outrageous because they're making Eliasson look small.
Yeah, absolute trees on the back end there. Ross, interesting to note, Ryan MacArthur on Twitter said, sounds like Barrie Colts import players Emil Hemming and Gabriel Eliasson will be returning for the 2025-2026 season. Plans could change, but that's where things are standing as of now. So great to see that Gabe Eliasson will be back in Barrie. And Ross, should I continue saying I got to go see him live? I think I said that 5 times last year and didn't get to see him, as Barrie is in my neck of the woods about 45 minutes, 50 minutes from here. And the Barrie Colts are an exciting team. So I got to go see him live. I got to do it.
Well, maybe you have to go to Moncton then too, as Eric Wallenius has been drafted in the first round of the CHL import draft. So we'll see if that changes his plan. We thought he was going to play in Liga next year, but Eric Wallenius, the 136th overall pick in the 2024 draft, has been picked by the Moncton Wildcats. So they own his CHL rights.
Can I have my bonus picks of guys I'm excited for at Dev Camp now?
Yeah, please. Do you want to go with goalies?
You read my mind, Ross. That's where I'm going. Kitchener Senator Jackson Parsons, CHL goalie of the year. He had a sick year in 52 games, goals against average 2.24, 920 save percentage, 5 shutouts, and a 37-12-3 record. The playoffs, he was doing good until they ran into the London Knights, so I'll just leave those stats alone for him. But yeah, awesome goalie to bring to Dev Camp. I mean, anytime you can add a CHL Player of the Year, that's a good guy to have there. And he'll, I don't think he'll look that out of place with the other guys in Nikitin, Riedler, and Beckman.
I'm so high on Kevin Riedler, and I should be even higher because apparently he's grown an inch. He's listed at 6'7". So the Sens have 3 6'7" players at camp between Kevin Riedler, Jabril Toure, and obviously Gabriel Eliasson. So that's interesting to note. And I also am curious about Jackson Parsons. He is unsigned though, so we'll see if he gets a contract out of this. He's expected to go to the University of Clarkson University, I guess is the way people say it. But if he signed an NHL deal or an AHL deal, he would not be able to then be assigned there. If you're signed prospect, you cannot play in college hockey. So maybe this is just, hey, come by and maybe next year or when you're done college this year, maybe there's a handshake agreement. We'll see, but certainly interesting to note that. Okay, Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Well, I mean, are we going to get to the 2 reported signings?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have to at this point, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Let's stick with the goalies since we were just talking about goalies, Ross. The Ottawa Senators reportedly have signed Hunter Shepard. You may recognize that name as Ross was loving seeing this guy on the bench for the Washington Capitals. He looks, or did look, I don't know how he's looking these days, but he looks so similar to the caddy from Happy Gilmore. It's hilarious. But Hunter Shepard, interesting goalie. Didn't have a great year with the Hershey Bears last year. 280 goals against, 891 save percentage in 39 games. Did get 7 playoff games. Only had 1 NHL game. That didn't go well. We're not going to read those stats off. But the year before, Ross, in 34 games with the Hershey Bears, 1.76 goals against and a 920 save percentage, and had a much better playoffs in 20 games. Are you pulling the picture up on YouTube?
I can't find it. I tweeted it during the season.
Yeah, it's good luck searching through millions of your tweets throughout the year. But Ross, as a hashtag goalie friendly show, one thing we love to see in 2019, 2020, in his final year in the NCAA with the University of Minnesota Duluth, captain, hashtag goalie friendly show, and he's wearing the C. That's epic. So we love to see that. Not the veteran backup goalie, or I shouldn't even say that. Not the veteran goalie I was hoping the Ottawa Senators to sign, Ross. He is 30 or 29 years old, but only has 5 career NHL games to his name. So I would have liked someone with at least double-digit NHL games played, but I don't mind this. I think he's going to be a guy that spends most of his time in Belleville.
And even though the Senators, in a perfect world, would have gotten a backup goalie to fill the roster out and let Marilyn be the starter in Belleville, you have to recognize that right now the Senators have 3 goalies on one-way contracts now with Marilyn and Sogard. So that's going to be something to watch during the preseason. But Hunter Shepard, Pillsy, you like winners, right? You like winners?
I do, yes.
2-time NCAA champion and 2-time Calder Cup champion with the Hershey Bears. And that's recent. That's not this season, but the season before, 2024 Calder Cup champion and 2023 Calder Cup champion. His record, he started every game in 40 playoff games in those 2 years. He had a 28-12 record. And his save percentage was about 912 if you split the difference, 914 and then 910 in each season. So, I mean, he's shown that outside of this year, and we'll see if it's an anomaly, he was up and down and backing up a bunch in Washington at the NHL level. We'll see if he's still got that elite AHL form, because if you look at the Belleville Senators last season, Pillsy, like, they probably played Malcolm Subban too much, played 24 games down there and had an 883. Michael Simpson on a 1-year, one-way AHL deal played 10 games. Like, that was too many games where you feel like if your goalie maybe made a couple more saves, you probably win the game. Hunter Shepard can be that guy. So I think this is a good Belleville signing, but obviously a guy who I don't think you expect or need to play NHL games this season.
Yeah, and I think, Ross, like, maybe this is good because then hopefully it doesn't happen, but if Linus Ullmark misses some time, that pretty much guarantees that Levi Meriläinen is going to be the number one guy. Levi Meriläinen has more NHL games played than Hunter Shepard.
Wow. Okay.
And it's going to push Mads Søgaard in Belleville. That starter job is not going to be sitting waiting for him. He's going to have to battle with Hunter Shepard, who has more experience and has had better numbers recently. So I think that's good as well. Maybe, Ross, I would have liked to take a look at, I mentioned Alex Lyon. He signed a 2-year deal at 1.5. That was our max budget, and I'm not that worried about the extra year. Or a guy like David Riddick, he signed a 1-year, $1 million deal. That could have been something of interest as well. But yeah, I don't hate this signing.
And also with this signing, which still hasn't been announced, is that Lalim's Martian beat Elliot Friedman by 9 seconds on this.
Yes.
Arthur Kaliyev, a player that when they were on waivers last season from the LA Kings, we were excited about the possibility of getting a little OHL familiarity, an OHL champion with the Bulldogs under Steve Staios and Michael Andlauer, former second-round pick in 2019, Arthur Kaliyev. Now, he signed in New York with the Rangers, Pilsy, and he scored 3 goals and had 1 assist in 14 games. One of those goals came against the Ottawa Senators.
Of course.
He is a boom or bust, but low-risk deal if it is a 2-way contract like we expect. We were kind of hinted at
I'm pretty sure it is a 2-way. I don't know the money, but I'm quite sure it's 2-way.
When he wasn't qualified with the New York Rangers, I said that deal is going to slap when it gets announced tomorrow for the Ottawa Senators on a 2-way deal. We had to wait 1 extra day, but it looks like Arthur Kaliyev is a member of the Ottawa Senators organization.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a top 6 Belleville guy, Ross. And I think if there is injuries, again, we hope that doesn't happen in Ottawa. He's a guy that can slot into your bottom 6. I know maybe some people are thinking, all right, this is a guy with a big shot. Maybe put him with Timmy. Nah, you can't
keep up.
You don't want this guy playing top 6 in the NHL, in my opinion. Although it is interesting. I would like to see Ross, if he does get to the NHL, though, put him on that second power play unit. Yeah. I think that could be something we could see here. So I think this is a good signing. And obviously with Steve Staios, the familiarity back to their Hamilton Bulldog days. So it was inevitable that this guy was coming to Ottawa at some point, and here he is.
A shooter. That's what he is. He's a pure shooter. Yeah, and the Sens need that. So with that, and Olle Lycksell, we haven't mentioned as well, did sign yesterday with Ottawa, $450,000 AHL salary, which is big money down there. Guaranteed to make $500,000, 2-way contract. He actually got a decent amount of NHL games played with the Philadelphia Flyers over the course of the last 3 seasons, especially last year, we'd say. But again, a top-line AHL talent where, again, skating might be what's holding him off the NHL, but a ton of talent, led his team in the AHL, the Philadelphia Phantoms, in points last year, despite playing 27 less games than the guy who came in second. He had 6 more points. He was a +12 with 44 points in 43 games. He's almost a point per game player in the last 3 AHL seasons, and he has 45 NHL games to sprinkle in with that. He was a former 6th-round pick in 2017 and was an AHL All-Star last year. Pills, he was 14th in the league in points per game.
Great signing for the Belleville Senators. I love that. I expect him to be their top guy, honestly, maybe alongside Stephen Halliday. I think this is a good Crooker replacement type player.
Yeah, so basically out goes Angus Crookshank and Cole Reinhardt, to a lesser extent Matt Highmore, who played a mix of NHL, AHL, basically 50-50 split, and you're replacing those guys with Lycksell and with Arthur Kaliyev. So you're getting a lot of shooters down there, and still more work to be done in Belleville. We'll see if anything else comes out today. If not, we'll have a little bit of a recap on Sens Development Camp, and we'll look around the league at the NHL, even the Atlantic Division, which, even though Steve Staios says he doesn't care what's going on there, I think Sens fans do want to know who got better, who got worse. So we'll discuss that tomorrow on Locked On Senators. My final thoughts is congratulations on a hell of a career to Bob McKenzie. I got to work with him a little bit at TSN, being a producer for Leafs Lunch, and I'll actually pull this up because I think it is very funny. Always respectful, always a good guy. But in my role there, it was always just about booking him 4 shows. So I just wanted to show you our conversation. He is the king of just replying with a thumb up.
Oh, you got some words there.
Sure, good to go, sure, thumbs up, good to go, sure, thumbs up, good to go. Got some words here. Good. I think all the words are good to go. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. So, hey.
Well, Ross, he's busy working the phones. That's all he needs to do.
2 thumbs up for Bob McKenzie. Truly the gold standard for Canadian television as a hockey insider. And what a heartfelt message he posted. The last 5 years, he's just been doing basically the events that he wanted to do, the World Juniors, free agency, trade deadline. But Bob McKenzie announcing after yesterday's free agent frenzy on TSN that he is 100% retired, and what a legacy he's leaving behind in the industry.
The Bob father. He is the GOAT of the NHL insiders industry, as far as I'm concerned, an absolute legend. And he's going to be enjoying a lot of margaritas, probably full time at the cottage now. So well deserved for what did he say his career was? Like, was it in the 50s of years?
I think it was 46 years total.
46. Okay, so close. Crazy.
And 25 on air at TSN. So started in 2000 at TSN. 48-year career. We're going to have to figure out our new draft rankings replacement for Bob McKenzie. I mean, nothing replaces Bob's rankings. So we'll see what goes there. Yeah, man. 48-year career, 25 on air at TSN. Unbelievable run for Bob McKenzie. All right, that's it for us. We've got a 6-year run going here at Locked On Senators, and we're going to keep it rolling tomorrow. Looking forward to hearing all the stories out of Sens Development Camp, and then later throughout the summer, we're going to have guys on who are participating in just that. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. You can find us on social media at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.